So I will just start off by giving a little introduction about myself. My name is Gautami and I have done my Bachelor's of Architecture from NIT Nagpur. I graduated in 2018. After that, I started working in the corporate for like a year, and then towards the end of 2019, I started preparing for the civil services. And 2020 was my first attempt at the exam. I was not very sure initially if this was the right path. I had my doubts. I had my bouts of anxiety about it. But I think God's been kind. I was able to make it in the very first attempt. So initially, when I started, I did not know if it would be possible in the first attempt. For me, it was very difficult also in the sense that I did not know anyone who was a civil servant, be it in my family or my friend circle, extended friend circle. I did not know a single person who made it. So I was not very sure if I was doing the right thing. So I had my doubts initially about it. So when I started preparing for the prelims, I was under the impression that okay, let's just give the attempt. Let's see how it goes, and then see if I make it through, then I'll think about mains. So this was my mindset initially. So I think that helped me a lot. That was a positive thing for me in the sense that this exam is a lot about how we set our mindset, more than how we study, more than what we study and how we remember things or anything. It's more about how we set our mindset and how prepared are we to face the worst. Right. So I went with even now. I remember when I was going for my prelims, the morning of my prelims, I went with a very calm mindset, thinking this is my first attempt. There's not a lot at stake. It's okay. Even if it, even if things do not go as planned, it should be fine. I think it's important for each one of us to have this mindset, right? Because in the end, if it goes well, then good. If it doesn't go well, also, we are prepared enough. So I would strongly recommend that all of you also have a similar kind of mindset that this is not the end of it. Yeah, before I start getting into details, only I want to make this very clear that this is not everything. I would not recommend anyone makes their entire life about this, please. Because there's a lot of other things also. I've seen a lot of people later on that who haven't made it into the exam but are still doing very good things. So that is one thing I wanted to say, and I'll talk very briefly about my journey, how I prepared, what are the resources that I've used, and then we can do like an interactive session where you can ask me any doubts, questions that you have. Yeah. So like I said, I started preparing for prelims around October, November of 2019. And for me, what worked more was understanding the pattern of the exam. So before I got into the subject, let's say history, polity or geography, before I actually got into it and started studying, I invested a lot of time in understanding what does this subject demand, or what does this exam demand, to be more clear. So I started looking at previous year's questions. Like even before I started studying any subject, I would take the previous year's questions and I would look at them over and over again. Like before I started, let's say before I started studying polity, what I would do was I would try and understand what kind of questions are coming from polity every year, because that carries a major weightage. So I would at least invest 1 hour's time, half an hour to 1 hour time every day. If today I am doing polity, I would invest half an hour to 1 hour time to understand what are the kind of questions. So let's say if I am studying a topic, or if I am reading any particular topic, I am already expecting the kind of questions that are going to come in the exam, right? So I think this will help us channelize our preparation in that way. Right. So otherwise, normally what happens is that if we start studying, I think it goes very directionless. I'm sure all of you have felt it at one point that I'm studying, going on doing chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, but where is it going to end, right? So this cluelessness is something which is definite when the exam demands a lot of this everything, lot of portion, lot of syllabus. The UPSC syllabus booklet itself is of so many pages, right? So it is very common to find ourselves very clueless after one point. So I think in order to avoid this, it's very important that we see the previous year's questions. So that is one thing. So the first step that I would do before doing the topic is I would see the previous year's questions, then do the topic and prepare accordingly, and immediately after that I would try to solve a test. right? Even if it wasn't very formal, even if I wasn't taking like a pen and a paper and solving a test, I would look at questions and see if I'm able to answer them. So there I would understand what is the deficiency in my preparation. There, if I'm not able to answer a couple of questions, I would sit and introspect as to why am I not able to do this? Am I doing it wrong? So in that way, I would try and prepare all the subjects, and that is what I think helped a lot. So for prelims, so I think preparing the timetable is very important for all of us. I think we all do it, but it's difficult to stick to it. It's very difficult. I know I've made a lot of timetables too. So I would never make like a timetable, hourly timetable or no. I would very vaguely think that okay, let me try to finish this subject in, let's say, 10 days, 15 days or 20 days, depending upon the length of the subject. So on an average for every subject, I took around 15 to 20 days. For the major subjects like polity, modern history, which carries a lot of weightage, I took a little more time. So how I would go about a subject was, initially when I was doing the subject for the first time, let's say, I would do like a very casual reading of it, right? How many of you read books in general, not UPSC related? Okay, so I would strongly recommend that everyone tries reading books, because that helps in the long run. Uh, so I would try to read a book as if I was reading a novel, right? So I would take history and I would only try to read it like a story. I would just try to see what was in it, right? So initially, right at the moment we're starting a subject, if we have that mindset that, oh my god, I have to remember all of this, let me remember every line of it while I'm studying, that does not help, because it is not humanly possible to do it. So for the first reading, I would read it like it was just a story. I would just try to understand, let's say if I'm doing history, I would try to understand what is the timeline, okay, what was the culture like, how was the society like in this period, and I would be like, okay, back then it was like this. So I would try to make this own story in my head. I would try to imagine things that, okay, in this period the society was like this, or these were the customs practiced by people back then. So for the first reading, I would do a casual reading, and second time when I'm reading it, I would do it along with the previous year's questions. So I would, at any point of time, whenever I'm doing a subject, I always had the previous year's questions beside me. So that is how I would do it. And then second reading, first or second reading, I wouldn't try to make notes, because we feel everything is important. We'll write everything, right? We'll probably, if we're doing Lakshmikant, we'll write another Lakshmikant alongside, right? So I would strongly recommend not making notes, at least in the first or second reading. By the time we reach the third reading, ideally, I think that is when we will start to understand what is more important, or what is it that I have to remember, right? So around that time, it is better we start making notes, right? Again, very short notes. So making notes is very important, because let's say 1 week or 10 days before the exam, definitely there are time, I think in my own case also, before prelims, when I opened a book, it felt like I was doing it for the first time, when I've already done it 2-3 times and done tests on it. So that happens, it is very common. So we tend to freak out if we don't have that confidence in the last moment. So in this case, having that notes makes a lot of sense, because it will give us that reassurance that, okay, I've studied it, I've made notes in my own words, right? Making notes also, I wouldn't recommend that we copy it as it is from whatever book we're doing. It is better we try to write in our own words, right? Or try to make a flow chart, try to make a comparative analysis. For example, if I'm doing history or geography, I would try to make maps, I would try to draw figures, I would try to, very basic figures, I would just try to understand what it is in layman's terms, like I'm explaining it to a kid. So that will help us and give us that reassurance before the exam when we have to study it. So you can probably aim at making notes in such a way that before the exam, that is the only thing you will refer to. Let's say 10 days before the exam, you will put aside all the books, right? Because that will give you that confidence. And prelims is all about having that confidence in ourselves, that we can, make it. I think in prelims, it's also very important that we trust our intuition. Because I'm sure not everyone will know the answers for all the questions. I myself was definitely not confident about all the questions. There's a lot of logic and analysis also that goes into prelims, right? Have you seen this year's paper? Did anyone attempt the exam this year? Okay, so you're all attempting it the next year, right? So if you look at the previous year, this year's paper at least, you will understand that there are questions that you don't know where they will come from. There are questions you definitely can't find in any books. At least 20 to 30 questions you cannot find them. So for these questions, in order to be able to answer them, I think we should try to develop the skill of logic and analysis. I think that helps a lot. So for that, again, solving tests, solving mock tests helps a lot. So in this way, I try to do study for the prelims. I would probably have like a 15-day window for the subject and then a 1 week extra time. Let's say if I could not cover topics or anything. And I think second thing which I followed very rigorously is to stick to the resources, the very basic resources. Now we find a lot of content, beat on the internet, beat in the bookstalls, everywhere. There's a lot of books, right? And then once we go there, we are tempted to buy them, right? I have books in my rack that I haven't touched. Based on, I just go buy them to feel good that I have them. So I would strongly recommend that you do not do it. Only do the basic resources. I will quickly tell what books I followed. Have you all started doing the NCRTs? Yes, okay. So again, NCRTs, it depends, it is very personal, it depends upon each person as to what level of understanding they have. If you're a beginner, then I would recommend doing NCRTs, even the basic books. But otherwise, I think 11th and 12th NCRTs will suffice overall. For geography, I did NCRTs were like the major and only source. 10th and 11th fundamentals of physical geography, India and the world, and economic geography. These were the ones I followed for geography. And I did a lot of tests again. For every subject, I tried to do at least 4 to 5 tests. Subject wise, I'm not talking about the full length tests. If I'm doing geography, I will do, when I finish the second reading of geography, I will try to solve one test, right? And then after the third reading, I will try to solve another test. So in this way, I at least did on an average 3 to 4, for some subjects even 5 tests. So doing tests helps a lot. For history, I've done ancient and medieval NCRTs, and I did not have the time to do modern. I did spectrum for modern history. It's very important that we make notes from spectrum. You all have the spectrum. Yeah, it's a very big book. I mean, it's fat, though it's small. So before the exam, there is no way that we can go through that book because it's like a story, right? It's going on in paragraphs, and there is nothing which is very organized in that book. So what I did was I tried to make my notes on Evernote. Have you all heard of Evernote? Yeah. So how many of you prefer making notes manually or by hand? By hand. Even I was under this impression that I will not use online sources for making notes, but no, please try to change it, because once you start making notes online, it is all the more convenient. It is so much more easier for us to keep updating ourselves, right? Let's say if I'm making my notes by hand, and I have like a big book by the end of it, and I want to add something to it. I'm doing a mock test on, let's say, modern history, and I come across something which is not there in spectrum, but there are definitely a lot of things which are not covered in the books, and I want to go back and add that information to that topic. How do I do it? I have to sit and run through the pages, and then there's no page for me. I then go write it somewhere. So that it all becomes such a chaos that we cannot manage it. So in this regard, I would strongly recommend that everyone tries and makes notes online. Try Evernote, it's very nice. Any of you have tried Evernote? Evernote? Yes? It's very nice. You can make a notebook, you can have different notes for different subjects, you can make columns, you can make tables, you can highlight things. There's a lot of options. It's so much fun also to use. For me, the best part would be to make notes. I would have so much fun. I would use different colors. So try to make notes. So in this way, for modern history, I think I had like a 50-page notes. That's it, in tabular columns, and it was so concise. I've made it all in tables. So I will just try and show you my notes so that you can have a head start about how to go about making notes. Uh, so in this way, I try to make notes in the second or third reading, and then I try to update them as I do the test. So whenever we do a subject, we study any subject and then go about and do a test in that subject. We will definitely find a lot of questions we've never come across, although you've done 2 3 sources. So all those will also become your content again. So this is what I stuck to. I used to do one book, one resource, and then do a lot of tests. So tests were also value addition to my to the notes that I already have. So that helped a lot. This was my approach to prelims overall, and so initially when I started preparing also, I was not very sure because it was my very first attempt. I did not know if it was possible. I did not know a lot of people to give me that confidence. I went with a very, I had like a very normal, casual approach to it. But then when the exam got postponed because of COVID, then I thought, okay, this is my chance, and then I have to give it a shot. So with that motivation, I started studying rigorously. I don't think you've all gone until modern history yet, right? You're doing ancient history, is it? Old history, okay. So what in modern history, what happens is that if we see the questions from previous years, there's a lot of questions when they mention like let's say a particular event, like let's say the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, and then ask who was the viceroy at that point of time, or who was the INC president at that point of time. So these are the questions. It's very factual when it comes to modern history, and at least every year at least 7 to 8 questions on an average come from modern history or related to modern history at least. So that is why it is very much advisable that we invest a lot of time into this and make proper notes. So this is how I would do it. I had a very, all my notes were always in tables. I never sat and wrote paragraphs because we have the books to study paragraphs, right? I try to make it very easy for me in the end, and this also helped me a lot to have a pictographic memory of it, right? There's this theory that we will remember it better when everything is in diagrams, in small figures, or in tabular format. So this way I would try to I try to make notes for every event that happens in the modern history part of it. I had year, event, and then features of whatever happened, outcomes. So if there's an event, then there are the precedents to the event, why that event happened, and then there are outcomes, what was the immediate action taken, and then who was the INC president at that point and who was the viceroy at that point, right? So in this way, if you see, all of my notes was in the table. Yeah, so this was until independence. So for every event, I did it like this, and this helped me a lot towards the end. The entire notes was hardly 40 to 50 pages. It is, and I only, this realization only came to me towards the end of it. Like I wish I had done it for other subjects too. This kind of notes I could only make for modern history and a couple of other subjects like art and culture, but this helps a lot. So please try and make it on Evernote. So this is about the static portion, and for current affairs part of it, what I would do was I would read the newspaper, but I wouldn't invest a lot of time. I would try to make notes from current affairs in Evernote again. So especially when it comes to current affairs, the issue keeps going on, or you keep getting updates on some issue. Let's say if some bill is being framed on a certain issue, there is a definite stage. Then there are what are the concerns, what are experts suggestions, is it becoming an act, when is it becoming, what are the drawbacks of it. So this keeps updating, and as it is updating, it becomes very important for us to add do value addition to our notes. So this way, try to make notes online. This was my approach for prelims, and so this exam, in all the 3 different stages, there's a different approach is needed for all the 3 stages. Prelims is about factual. There is definitely factual part of it. Then there is logic and analysis. Coming to mains, I think in mains what matters more is having an in-depth understanding of any issue, right? We should be able to analyze all the aspects of the issue. What are the pros, what are the cons, what is the way forward, right? So again, here it becomes very important for us to stick to few resources, right? Here what helped me a lot was watching The Big Picture, Rajya Sabha television. Has anyone started watching it yet? Yeah. So every issue that is happening currently, there's a big picture on Rajya Sabha television, wherein the experts come and talk about it. So please follow that every day. Another second resource would be Cut the Clutter by Shekhar Gupta. Has any of you heard of him? No. Cut the Clutter by Shekhar Gupta. So again, he takes any event that is happening, ongoing event, any issue that is happening, happening probably, let's say, for 1 week or 10 days, it's continuing. He will take that topic and talk about it in very layman's terms, right? That is not UPSC civil services oriented at all. That's like a very common show where everyone watches it. So if an issue is happening, he will try to talk about what is the background of it, right? If some act or amendment is being passed, how was it before, what were the drawbacks, and why is it being passed now, and what could be the outcomes of it. So it's very systematic, and you can also make notes from that too. For mains, I think these two resources, in addition to the common material that we have, would suffice. And coming to the interview point of it, I think interview has very little to do with knowledge about what we have. So because this was my first attempt, I was definitely I definitely had my inhibitions that, you know, there are people who are in their 6th attempt, 5th attempt. I'm sure they know a lot more about me because they've been in this race for long. So I felt very underprepared for my interview too. But then going there, I realized that they're not trying to test your knowledge at all. It's all about personality. How are you responding to questions? What is your reaction to the questions that you don't know? Are you trying to bluff them? So these are the things they watch, and then UPSC has also given like a very detailed note as to what are they seeing in the personality test. They don't call it an interview in the first place. So I think at every stage it becomes very important for us to look at the syllabus, look at what UPSC has released in the notification, then see what are the previous year's questions at all 3 stages: prelims, mains, and interview. Interview also, there are a lot of transcripts of previous year, what previous year's toppers who made it, who haven't made it, what are the questions that are being asked. And then channelizing our preparation in that way. So I think if we follow this very simple process, it becomes very easy, and I think it will become it's very much possible for everyone to do it. So I think that's what I want to talk about. So if there are any questions now, we'll talk about them in specific. Okay, optional. What about optional? My optional was PSIR. Resources. Okay. So all of you have chosen your optional. Yes. I will talk about PSIR then. How many of you are from PSIR? Okay. For PSIR, for me, I had like a very little time to prepare. Most of my preparation, around 70% of my optional preparation, I've done it between prelims and mains. I would not recommend that. You have the time, so do it from now. I followed Shubhra Ranjan's notes from Delhi. I'm sure you must have heard of her. So you get a set of 6 to 7 books, and I try to follow them. I studied them. Along with that, for Western political thought, I did O.P. Gauba for Western political thought. Then I also followed Globalization by Smith and Bailey. Smith and Bailey Globalization. Globalization of World Politics, I think is the name. That for the paper 2, IR part of it. So I've also referred to previous year's toppers notes in this aspect. There are two specific toppers whose names I would take. Dhananjay Singh Yadav from 2018. His notes are available online in his blog, Dhananjay Singh from 2018. And there's Tripti Dodmise from 2019. Tripti Dodmise ma'am's notes. So, in addition to the basic resources, I followed these people's notes. I'm sure for every optional you have notes from previous year's toppers. So, you can probably start doing value addition to those notes. So, that is what I did. So, I would take their notes, I would have that as a base material, and then by reading editorials, by reading resources from elsewhere, I would only add to that. And ORF, Observers Research Foundation. ORF website, and again Cut the Clutter also helped me a lot for IR especially. So what I would do was, because IR is very dynamic, although you do the static portion, there is no such notes that you will get it. Even if you get a set of notes today, it will be irrelevant by the time you write mains. There are definitely new topics coming up. So what I would do for IR especially was, I would very religiously do the editorials part of the newspaper. So in the newspaper, the first thing I would read was IR editorial, if there is one. And I would read the entire editorial once or twice, and then I would try to make notes from the editorial. So for PSIR, that helped me a lot in the sense that I would take a topic, let's say there's India-China, if some issues happening, for at least 1 week or 10 days, there are continuous editorials on the same issue, right? And then there are a lot of experts' suggestions or experts' words on those issues. So we have everything that is there already, right? We have all the opinions, we have a detailed analysis of a topic. We don't have to sit and do the analysis, no. I'm sure a lot of people, initially when I was preparing also, a lot of people told me that you have to be able to analyze things, sit and understand, form your own opinion on it. And I had my inhibitions, thinking, will I be able to form an opinion on it, right? With very little knowledge, it's very difficult for any of us to form an opinion on anything, right? We could definitely be wrong. So in this sense, it is not, I think it's very contrary for me to say this, that it is not very important to form our opinion on everything, right? There's definitely a detailed analysis available. People are doing it, experts who are in the field for 20 years, 25 years, 30 years are doing it, then might as well understand that better, right? So this is what I followed. I would make notes from the editorials, keep updating them, and for every country, let's say India, China, or India, US, India, Pakistan, anything, I would have like a very structured notes, in the sense that in any, if you see any question, definitely you will have to write an introduction. If there is some issue coming up, if there is a question about any particular issue, you will have to give the background of that issue, give what is that issue, write about what that issue is, what are the pros, what are the cons, and what is the way forward, right? So why don't we make our notes in this way itself, before itself? Why should we sit in the examination hall and think about what am I going to write here? Oh my god, what am I going to write in the end? If I've written everything, there is no way forward in the end, right? So from the preparation stage itself, what I tried to do was, I tried to make my notes, or try to prepare my brain in that way, that I'm already, if I'm studying a topic, I'm imagining that there's a question coming in it in the exam already. So I'm preparing the topic from that point of view. So if I come across some very nice way forward in an editorial, I will understand it and I will make a note of it. Okay, this is the way forward that we could suggest in the exam. So I think for PSIR, this is what worked for me. Anything else? Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. So initially, when I was preparing for prelims, I even after my prelims, I could not tell what all were in GS1, what all were in GS3. I had that confusion. About understanding the syllabus and everything. So before prelims, I've only done a little part of my optional PSIR, which is the Western political thought, although that plays a major part in the entire subject. And after prelims, before mains, there was very little time for me to study or write. I think for a week or so, I was under this I was under this confusion that what do I do? Should I enroll for a test series? Should I take some short crash course kind of a thing for my optional, or should I do essay? Should I do ethics? I was very confused. But in the end, I realized that doing all of that, I will not be able to finish any of it by the exam. So here, what I did was I tried to understand what are the questions in mains like. Right, exactly what I did for prelims, and here what I did was I went through a lot of previous years toppers answers for all the papers, be it GS 1, 2, 3, 4, optional, essay, everything. There are toppers answers. So again, every day I would start studying for, let's say, my optional or GS 1, 2, 3 or 4, and then every day in the night I would spend 1 hour. Seeing how toppers are writing their answers. Right, again, I think like I mentioned at the beginning, this exam is more about understanding what the exam demands, right? Again, like I said, I had my inhibitions thinking mains is very big, there's so many papers and you have to know a lot of things, a lot of content to be able to write answers. So in this regard, I think for me what helped a lot was understanding how a topper is writing an answer, right? Because if it worked for them, then might as well understand that better, right? So I invested a lot of time in that. I understood, especially for PSIR also, what I did was I used to read a lot of previous year's toppers answers, and from those answers I would make my notes. So if I was doing Western political thought, I would see toppers tests on those topics, and there are a few toppers who would write very good introductions or very good conclusions. Like let's say there's a topic on rights or justice in PSIR. I've seen some topper write very good introduction. So I made a note of that. So that becomes my own introduction again, right? So if someone's already doing a lot of work, a lot of research, and it's already there available for us, why not make the best use out of it, right? Rather than us sitting and starting from the scratch, that today I will probably take a notebook, write the topic and then start writing on my own. Already there's a lot of, for all the optionals also, there's a lot of information which is already available. Might as well take that and do your own value addition. You can probably turn that into your notes by adding your way of introduction, your way of structuring the answers or everything. So this also helps us save a lot of time, and this is how I was able to do mains. And for mains, GS 1, 2, 3 or 4 does not honestly make a lot of difference, GS 1, 2, 3, because no matter how well we write the exam, the score is always somewhere between 85 to 105, 110. There's not a lot of variation. The game changers are essay and ethics. So writing an essay is very difficult. If one does not have that kind of practice from before. And in this sense, it becomes very important for us to again understand the essay topic properly, right? There's 2 essays. The second one is philosophical. Especially in the philosophical part of it, it becomes very important to understand what the examiner is asking or what he is expecting out of this. Again, for this, seeing previous year's questions helps, because a lot of topics tend to get repeated, even though not in the same exact sense, but there is definitely a little tweaking here and there. So first thing, if you are trying to starting your preparation for essay, I would strongly recommend that you take the previous year's questions and write the essays for those. That would help a lot. And ethics is again something which plays a major role. You can score a lot in essay and ethics. So in the time between prelims and mains, when you're probably writing mocks, test series and everything, try to give the most time to essay, ethics and your optional. GS 1, 2, 3 also are important, but you can probably structure your own way of looking at it, and then give maximum weightage to those papers where you can score more. Anyone else? Manage to read newspaper every day. So along with coaching, you're unable to do it, is it? What are the timings of your coaching? What is the timing? 9 to 1. So you have a lot of time, no? Optional yet, okay. And when that happens, that will be in the afternoon. Okay, so again, like I said, I personally would not invest a lot of time into newspaper because I wouldn't remember any of it at the end of it. I would probably, if you ask me what I read in yesterday's newspaper, I will take 10-15 minutes to even think of one or two topics that I've done it. So newspaper, I would try to restrict myself to the editorial part of it. The first page, which is the headlines, what is happening, then the nation news, and the editorial part of it. So for editorials, on an average, I would take 1 hour to do all the editorials, and let's say 15-20 minutes for the rest of the newspaper. This is how I would give my time. And every day I think reading newspaper in the morning would help a lot because you have a fresh mind. So if you can take out 1 hour before your coaching for the editorial, that would make sense. Do not spend 2.5-3 hours on newspapers, and doing 2-3 newspapers, I don't think that's very much recommended, at least initially. Try to do the editorials, and if you find any editorial which you think can be used in any answer, which you think can be of some use for you in mains or your optional, then make short notes of it, very short notes of it. Test for prelims or mains. For prelims, I'm sure your coaching is also conducting tests, or at least they will start so in a few months, right? I think once you come to a stage, the coaching also will start tests. Other than that, other than what AKS is giving you, you can also go for like second any test series that is available, easily available online. Any test series is the same. I told you, right? I probably after the second reading you can do one test, or third reading you can do another test in this way. So when you're doing a subject for the first time, don't try to attempt it at the very beginning, because that will probably it will not help so much in boosting our morale. So if you're doing it after the second reading or third reading also, that should be fine. But then every time you do that, you do a revision after that, you have to make sure you give a test. So giving tests also helps us understand where we lack, and that is more important, right? Initially, I also thought, okay, if I'm giving tests and I'm not scoring very well in that, I'll probably be demotivated. This was like a very big concern for me. But then I realized that only when I'm giving the tests I'm able to understand where I lack. So giving tests is very important. Art and culture, Nitin Singhania is what I followed, and Nitin Singhania is enough. And I think NCRT, that's one NCRT in 11th or 12th standard. I'm not very sure. So for these subjects also there are tests available. You don't have to look for many resources. That's what I'm trying to say from the beginning. Go for very basic resources. Art and culture, do only Nitin Singhania and NCRT. One NCRT is there, art and culture. That's it. See, I think this is what we try to do initially, that we try to find a lot of resources. We try to have a lot of books that will give us that confidence initially, but no. There are books which I haven't even opened once. I just bought them. And we were talking about the resources also for, again, for for art and culture, Nitin Singhania and NCRT. For history, I think I've mentioned. For polity, Constitution at Work, the NCRT, very important, because at least there are, I think there were 2 direct questions last year and this year also from Constitution at Work NCRT, 11th standard NCRT. And Lakshmikant, we have to know it line by line, word by word. Everything is very important from Lakshmikant, and it is very common for us to forget everything. So for the second time we open it, you'll probably wonder if I've read it in my dreams or what. So that happens, it's very common, but I think if you're doing it 2 or 3 times, it should be fine. And one thing I would strongly recommend, that you don't make notes from Lakshmikant, because everything is very important. There is no point in making notes for Lakshmikant, at least. For every other subject, you can probably go with notes, similar kind of notes that I've shown. That notes helped a lot because it helped clear a lot of the basics. What is the basic understanding of our economy? What is the GST? What is the fiscal deficit? what is the monetary policy. So these are the things which sound very new to us, right? Sorry. Ethics. So what I followed for ethics was for mains I followed Rishikesh Reddy sir's notes. For mains, most of it was doing notes of previous toppers. Yeah, Rishikesh Reddy, he was 2019 topper. So he has a very crisp notes. Again, for ethics, there's not a lot of things that we have to study as such. We just have to understand what are values, what are morals, right? What is integrity? What are the values a civil servant must possess? All these things. These are the things that are. These are the things. That are important, and rest of it is how we answer the question. So that is why I emphasize that when you're giving tests, give more tests for ethics and essay. Um, so yeah, I think you have a very nice material for prelims, quick revision material. So I think apart from doing the newspaper every day, having a basic understanding, I think these materials should suffice. You know, we should all be very glad that such material is being provided to us. Things are being made very easy to us. We just have to study this, right? So in this way, I think uh, even if you're not doing the newspaper word by word, doing these notes will suffice very much. Anything else? You're asking something? Answer writing. Have you all started answer writing? Practice? Not yet. It's very scary to start answer writing initially because what do we write, right? I don't know anything. How do I write a big answer over a topic? I also took a lot of time. I also took a lot of time to start writing answers, but it actually helps a lot because at least some kind of questions will get repeated in the exam. Like you must have attempted one or two questions which are there. So then in the exam you will get that kind of confidence that you will be able to write this answer. So how to start? I would not recommend starting it on day one because we don't know a lot of things to write answers, right? So probably when you do a topic, let's say you're doing Indian polity and you're studying this material, you can try to attempt one question from this material. You can probably ask your polity faculty to give you all one question for the day, and after doing this material, right, study something and then try to write an answer out of it. Without that, I think there is no point in writing answers. So first develop the content for the answer, and if you're doing this topic, you can easily attempt one or two questions from this topic, right? So on an average, every week try to write at least initially when you're starting writing, try to write 3-4 answers, get them evaluated, and once they're evaluated, you will understand where you're going wrong, and as you go, you can probably increase the number of answers that you're writing. And let me tell you, the time between prelims and mains is not sufficient for us to understand what is answer writing. Then, for me, answer writing was kind of an added advantage because I was good with writing. Even in my graduation. There were a lot of subjects, humanity subjects, where I would score really well. So for me that was an advantage, but still I did write answers even before my mains. I wrote, although I could not have any resource to get them evaluated. I would write answers and I would read them myself, and I would try and compare them with toppers' answers. But if you have the opportunity to get them evaluated by your faculty or your seniors who are there here, write them. Even if you're failing at it miserably also, that's fine, but to start it is what matters. You will get better with time, I'm sure. A lot of you are confused about which answers to write. Should we write answers on the static part, or should we write answers on the current affairs, current issues that are happening? So I think both of them will definitely have equal weightage towards the end. But what happens with current affairs is that an issue keeps developing. Today you will write an answer, but tomorrow there might be a new development on the same thing, right? So you can probably see, I think every month you will get a booklet like this, right? So if you're getting a booklet like this for, let's say, November, you will study the November's booklet, and in December you can try and attempt the questions on November's current affairs. So by then you will get a clear understanding. So if today some issue is happening, you need not write an answer on it today, right? Static. So on an every week, like I said, 3-4 answers you can try to attempt. Out of which 2 can be static and 2 can be current affairs related. Current affairs of the previous month, because you already have a notes, you already have content which is explaining the background of an issue, why is the issue happening now, and what are the pros, cons. All of this is already there. So based on that, based on that understanding, you can also add some to the same material. You can add content from your editorials or from big picture, like I said, big picture or cut the clutter. You can add points, and then you can try and attempt an answer. So this way, try to balance between both static and current affairs. Anything else, guys? Yeah, you can ask in Telugu also. You can ask me any silly doubts also, it's fine. I wouldn't mind. My answers, I actually don't have them right now, but I will forward them to Sir. Sir can show them probably whenever you have time, okay? I will forward my answers of probably PSIR and essay. How to? Essay paper, okay. By watching news, see again, like I said, what news do you watch generally? Do you watch news apart from reading the newspaper? Hmm? No? Not at all. Yeah. So I think watching news here means watching, for me at least, watching news was watching big picture and cut the clutter. And from these, definitely, I would recommend making notes, because an expert is giving their opinion on it, and it becomes very. We don't get that in static portion, right? We just understand like a very basic. We just get a basic understanding of a topic. But opinions are what matters when it comes to both mains and interview. I would strongly recommend making notes from watching big picture and cut the clutter. And how to prepare for essay అని అడుగుతారు కదా. Cut the clutter, CUT, cut, THE, clutter, CLUTTER. So basically, it literally means that he cuts the clutter about any issue. Some issue is happening, there's a lot of things we hear about it, but then he makes it very clear to cut all the clutter about it and talk what is true. There is nothing, there is no biased opinions in this show. So yeah, for essay, the resource that I followed was the Fundamentals of Essay Writing book by Anudeep Durushetty sir, 2017 AIR1. So I would strongly recommend that everyone has this book. It's available on Amazon. I'm not publicizing. So this book helped me a lot, honestly. For me, in essay, I bought this book. Before writing any essay, I read this book very thoroughly, and sir also has his notes on his blog, essay notes on Anudeep Durushetty's blog. So if there's an essay, there are different ways of approaching an essay, right? For an essay, you can have a temporal approach. You can talk about a timeline, or for an essay, you can talk about different aspects. Let's say political aspect, economic aspect, cultural aspect. So first, the moment we look at an essay, we should understand what is the approach that we are following. For essay, it becomes very important for us to structure what we are writing. So even in the exam, at least 15 minutes of the time we take only to structure the essay. You don't look at an essay and start writing. So in this structuring itself, you should understand what will be my approach to the essay. You should have everything in place, only then you will write an answer. So initially you can take at least half an hour, 45 minutes to be able to structure an essay, and then try to attempt it. And it need not be very professional, like it need not, you must have heard that you should write an essay like an editorial. but no, you don't have to. You can be a layman and still write good essays. The only thing that matters in essay is the approach and how are you maintaining the flow between two paragraphs. Like if you see editorials, the next time you read an editorial, please try to notice that there is always a connection between two paragraphs. There's one paragraph is ending and then another paragraph is starting. The last line between the previous paragraph and the first line in the next paragraph will be related in some way. So this is, I found this is a very good approach to use in essays, right? Normally we don't know how to maintain the flow, right? You yourself, when you're reading an editorial, how interested are you? How many times do you zone out? It's common, right? Imagine an examiner is writing is reading so many essays per day and so many handwritings. Some may be good, some might not be. So our job there is to make their life easier. So this was the thing. Before going for any exam, I would keep it in mind that okay, I should probably give the examiner a good time so that he'll give me good marks. So in this way, I try to make all my, I never used very complicated terms, very difficult phrases. I didn't try to stand out of the crowd. My answers have to be, the best. I never had that approach for me. Personally, I thought I should just probably try and explain what is there in very layman's terms so that the examiner knows that okay, this person knows what he or she is talking about, right? So I use this approach very much, that I would try to maintain the flow between 2-3 paragraphs in this way, and wherever possible I would always try to start my essay with a story. Even if you read a lot of editorials, especially the editorial on Saturday, the one where you get the full page on the right, it's like a story, right? You all know what I'm talking about, right? Saturday, the page, the one on the right side. So that always starts with a story. I was very interested in reading those editorials. How many of you are interested in reading that editorial? Where it starts with a story. They're not trying to push in information. They're not trying to, push in opinions or say something in the very first point. They're slowly trying to, paint a background picture so that you know what the topic is about, and then get into the details. So I would try to use all these techniques from editorials, what I learned. And even editorials, they're not completely going on paragraph by paragraph. There are these subheadings, right? There are these small subheadings which is giving a structure to the essay. So reading editorials not just for content but also to see the way how they are written. I'm not talking about terminology again. I'm not saying we have to write editorial level essays, but just how they're taking us through the entire thing. That understanding that will give us a clear idea about how to write an essay. CSAT, how many of you here are not from Max background? Okay, the rest of you are from Max background at some point. So let me tell you, CSAT is definitely a little tricky. For people who've done, who have the background in Max, it's completely okay. They'll be able to do it. But the ones who do not have the background in Max, please invest a lot of time. For CSAT, there are two parts again. One is English comprehension. The second is logic and ability. There is not proper math. It's only the topics like work time and let's say calendar years. All these did you all start studying CSAT? No? Not yet? Okay. So again, before CSAT, see previous year's questions. For CSAT, our aim should only be to get the minimum qualifying mark, right, which is 66.66. So we will aim at, let's say, 80, 85 or 90. That should be our aim. Even for prelims, we should always try to aim more, so that we are at least crossing the cutoff, right? For prelims, always, even when I was giving my subject-wise test, I would aim at 110, 115, 120 this way. Again, in full length tests, it is okay if you're getting 60, 70. I have gotten so much also in some tests, but it's okay. On an average, if you're getting around 90 to 100, that should be fine. So for CSAT, I try to solve previous year's questions first to understand where do I stand. I have a Max background, and then the first test that I gave, I was so shocked, thinking, what is this? I personally come from a Max background, but then there is definitely a lot of time constraint that comes in the exam. So even in the last year, I was able to finish the paper one on time. I even had like 5 minutes in the end to probably just go through. But for CSAT, I was running out of time and I could not believe it because there are lesser questions in CSAT, right? And it is English comprehension. But it takes a lot of time to understand the comprehension and answer those questions. So for CSAT, the only thing that would help is practice. Practice, at least depending on your level of probably knowledge of maths or English. It depends. On an average, I think anyone, even a person who's really good at it, should attempt at least 10 tests. And people who are still struggling with CSAT, try to attempt 20-30 tests at least. Anything else? So. Questions asked in the interview. So before interview, we fill something called DAF, which is the detailed application form. There are two levels. After prelims, you fill one DAF 1 before the mains, wherein you give all your educational information, where did you do your 10th, 12th graduation, and even in that there's a column wherein you mention the subjects of your graduation, subjects of your intermediate, subjects of your school also. And in the second DAF, they also ask us about our work experience, if we have any. What is the work experience, and there's a very detailed form wherein we have to fill our hobbies, our interests, our achievements, if any, if we have won any awards, be it in schooling, college, anytime, and all the information about where are you from, which district do you belong, where's your father from, where's your mother from, and all these things. We already, basically before the interview, we're already giving them a transcript of our life, saying this is what I've done in my in all my educationally, work wise, personally, these are my interests. So in most cases, the interview revolves around your DAF. So in my case also, my graduation, like I mentioned, I'm an architect by profession. So for me, around 70% of the interview was based on architecture, and then there were questions from my political science optional, and one or two questions in general. So architecture, my interview, to give like a brief idea about how my interview went, it started off with the chairperson reading out my DAF to everyone, and she started off with asking about my work experience, what I was doing then at the moment, when did I leave my previous job, why, and what I was doing at that point. Then it revolved around, in my DAF I mentioned something about my final year thesis project in college, for which I was awarded. So it was basically a design for a center for cancer care hospital. So for that I received the best thesis award in my final year graduation. So most of the questions were revolving around that, and let me tell you one thing, we would not think that the people who are in the interview would know a lot, but they know about everything. So in my case also, personally, I thought architecture is like a very different course, right? I was very sure that they wouldn't know a lot about architecture. And I thought I'll be able to answer questions even if, they will ask me something, I'll be able to tell something and they'll believe. So they asked me some question about architecture and I answered. They asked me what is a recent innovation in architecture, or in recent times what has been going on in architecture. And I told them about this new software that was there called BIM. I went on about explaining about that software. I myself had little knowledge in it because I was very new. The software is new. I went on telling about it, and then the moment I stopped, the member asked me a cross question. They asked me what is the difference between that software and another software. And that was the moment I thought, oh, these people here are not just here, they know everything. They do the background research before we go. So for me, it was mostly based on architecture. They asked me about what are the new, tell me examples of some materials which are climate friendly. So I was telling about something called cooling bricks. So there also you should try to, in every answer that you give, you should try to talk a little bit about your personality. So in my answers, I tried to tell them how I would, how I would give my best to reduce the emissions. How I would strive to use green solutions for buildings rather than using air conditioners or anything which is putting, which by which we are emitting more greenhouse gases. This is how we can reduce it in a building's design. So these were the things which I tried to tell them in the questions they were asking. So in this way, in every question, if we are trying to give out a little bit of ourselves, I think then the interview will definitely go well. In the very first attempt, I think uh, for me also it was very it took a lot of time for me to digest it. So I took it one step at a time, being very honest. Like I told you before prelims, I never was like I have to do it, do or die. No, I thought let me do this, let me see if prelims goes, then we will see how to go about main. So I had a very normal approach to it, and I definitely had prepared my mind for the worst, right? Because this exam is very uncertain, you never know what will happen. A lot of people do the interview also and not make it, right? So at every stage I was thinking that it's okay even if it does not happen. So I think that gave me a lot of mental strength, and probably that is why I could give my best. So again, like I said, I'm again repeating that this exam is a lot about how you set your mindset about this, and that will reflect in every stage. Prelims, mains, you should be able to write 9 papers back to back. There's very little time. So what is your mindset about it? If you look at it as something which is very scary, you will not able to give your best. For me, I took it up as a challenge. I was like, okay, in 3 hours, if I have to write 20 questions, let me see if I'll be able to complete it. Right? I went with this approach, and even for the interview, I thought. For me especially, I didn't do a lot of research about what were the boards, who are the people, panel members. I didn't try to understand anything. I just thought let me go be myself, and that is what worked for me. I think that is very personal again. How do you feel confident about it? See, for some people, it's like if I'm doing history for like 10 days, 15 days, I will probably, there are people who might feel that they're losing out on other subjects that they don't know. So if you are one of those people, you can do 1 or 2 subjects simultaneously, but at any point, I wouldn't recommend that you do more than 2 subjects, because uh, that you have to give considerable amount of time to be able to get into that mind space. It's not like the moment you open your book you start remembering everything, right? For the first half an hour, 1 hour, you will try to understand what the subject is about, what the topic is about. If you're starting let's say one topic, you will probably go back and revise what was the previous topic. You will try to establish the flow, right? So in this way, giving more time to one subject will help in the long run. If I'm doing one subject, I would also do current affairs alongside. So let's say if I'm doing some polity or history, I would take one booklet of 1 month current affairs, let's say October. If I'm doing it now, I would take October's booklet, and every day I would, after doing my static portion for let's say 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours, 1 or 2 hours, I would try to give it for current affairs. In the current affairs booklet, I would try to finish polity, I would try to finish geography or economy. In this way, I would do both current affairs and one static subject is what I did. So based on your, based on your convenience, you can probably do 2 subjects also. Polity and modern history. So this is why I've invested a lot of time in these 2 subjects. Uh, So economy is one thing where there's very little time you should give for static. Honestly, for me, what I did was economy was I did only Sriram IAS to understand, and for economy, I knew that there's a lot of current affairs that plays a major role. So even when you're doing current affairs, it does not mean you're just understanding what is there right now. In the current affairs booklets also, like these booklets, you will have the information, background information, any precursor to it and stuff. So for economy especially, I did 2-3 different types of current affair booklets. So do just stick to one basic book for static and do more current affairs for economy. So if you're doing this booklet for all the other subjects, for economy I would recommend that you add one more. So this is how you can do it. And otherwise, I think modern history and polity are the game changers in any paper. Look at the previous year's papers, 2-3 years at least, to understand weightage. I think there's a lot of the breakup is available already. I'm sure your coaching also must give you that every year how many questions are coming from what subject. So it makes it very clear where to focus upon. How to choose optional. This was for me also. It was very difficult. Honestly, I think I spent almost 1 month or so researching about so many. You hear so many things that this optional is scoring, this optional is not, this optional is going high, it's going low, the trend is not good. These are the things which definitely would disturb us. So first thing for optional, I would recommend that if there is an optional in your from your graduation subject, do take it, right? Because you already have the basics of that subject, so might as well do it. Like if you're from, let's say, commerce, law backgrounds, it's very easy. Yes, exactly. Biology, you're a medical science student, then you can take medical science. It becomes very easy for you to not start a subject from scratch. For people whose graduation subject is not one of the optionals, like in my case, there was no optional on architecture. So for me, I realized that any subject I take, I'll have to give equal amount of effort, be it history, be it economy, be it sociology, any subject. I knew I had to start from the scratch, give equal amount of effort. So in that case, I will tell you how I went about choosing my optional. I took the list of optionals of UPSC. In the first go only, you will cancel off some optionals. For me, it was very easy cancelling off medical science, in all the engineering subjects. Mathematics also I cancelled. Economy, I wasn't very sure if I would be able to go into so much depth. Agriculture. So in first go, you will be able to cancel most of the options. You will probably narrow yourself down to, let's say, 4 or 5. That will mostly be in the humanities background. So after narrowing yourself down to 4 or 5 optionals, what I did was I took the syllabus of all these optionals and I compared them. I read the syllabus line by line, word by word, because tomorrow if I'm going to read so many things about it, I should be able to like it. And if I'm going to spend 1 or 2 years or more years of my study in it, I should be interested in the subject, right? So I went about seeing all these things, reading the syllabus. After that, I narrowed myself 2 options. In the end, I had only 2 options, PSIR and one more. After narrowing it down to 2, I took the previous year's questions also. Until now, I've only seen the syllabus. After that, I took previous year's questions, and I saw the questions and I thought, okay, will I be able to answer this question? Will it be easy? And another factor which played a major role for me was to see the overlap. So I would strongly recommend that if you're doing a subject in detail, it should be in such a way that it might as well help you in other GS papers also. That is why I took PSIR, because it was helping me in GS2 essay, ethics also. There was definite in ethics also we have thinkers, what we do in Western political thought. So in this way, the first factor would be, are you interested? The second thing would be, are you seeing the previous year's questions? Will you be able to answer them? And third thing is the overlap. What is the amount of overlap like? So I think these 3 things, and you should be able to choose. And I was also very confused because some people were saying that this is scoring, that is not scoring. This next year this might be scoring. There are a lot of people who are telling that. They don't know anything. They're saying it just for the sake of it. Do not trust these. Do not trust all these. You open YouTube and you come across a very catchy headline saying 2022 lo idi scoring optional untundi ani. It's not like that. UPSC, if you see the options of first 10, 20, 50 people also, people from agriculture also make it, people from commerce are there, people from mathematics are there. So every option is scoring. So when I was under this confusion about which optional to choose, I spent a lot of time. I was very confused, and there was this one person who told me, which stays with me even today, that that person told me that listen, if you are bound to make it, if you are meant to be there, you take X optional, you take Y optional, you take Z optional, you will make it. If it is, if you have it in you, you will do it with any optional, right? So in the end, take one and stick to it. Do not try to probably fluctuate again, thinking, oh my god, why did I start this? Look at my friend, she's doing that, I'll just go with her. No, you can make it with any optional. right? Even a medical science student can make it with any optional, be it humanities, right? I think we should only be able to take one and stick to it. Optional literature. So the qualifying papers, English and the regional local language Telugu, right? It's very easy. It's merely qualifying. It does not it does not take a lot. But the thing is, it's very important for us to qualify in that, because only if we qualify in that, our other papers are evaluated. I did not know this either. That the very first thing that will be evaluated will be your English and Telugu, I suppose, for most of you, and only if you are qualifying in that, the others will be evaluated. For this, it's very easy. You can probably just see 1 or 2 years question papers. The questions that are asked are mostly like this. In English, it is comprehension. When we were kids, they used to give us a paragraph and ask 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions. From the paragraph only, we should write the answers. And then there are words, they will ask you for similar words, antonyms, opposite words. English is very easy. And for me, I was more scared about Telugu, because the last I did it was in 10th standard. 1 or 2 days before Telugu paper, I started freaking out, thinking, will I be able to write? And even while writing the exam, I realized I was making a lot of spelling mistakes. So I would recommend for Telugu paper, what I did was I read the newspaper Enadu for 1 or 2 days before the exam, and they'll ask questions wherein they will give an English paragraph and ask you to translate it in Telugu, and the other way around. They will give you a Telugu paragraph and ask you to translate it in English, and they will give you similar words, paryaya padalu, all these things. So it's easy. It doesn't take a lot to qualify in the papers. For me, IAS was my first preference. My second preference was IRS IT, Indian Revenue Service Income Tax. Third was Foreign Service, and then fourth was IPS. So this was my personal preference, because administrative service, because I think that has been my goal forever. Second, revenue service, because there was this brief period of time after my graduation, during my preparation also, where I was doing some content writing. So wherein I was involved in writing articles for based on financial crime, financial fraud. So this was very much related to what an IRS official does on an everyday basis. So that is why I chose revenue service as my second option. That's it, sir. Anything else, guys? No? How many hours? I think this is again very subjective. It depends from an individual. It depends upon the individual. Let me tell you that it is not the number of hours that matters. It is only the quality. It's only the quality and not the quantity, right? On an average, during the peak of my preparation, I think I studied somewhere around 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours, but never more than that. I was always very clear that I would not make my entire life about studying for this exam. Had like a very active social life. I would watch movies. I would go out. I would in the lockdown especially. I tried my luck at cooking. So I kept myself occupied with all these things, and for me, again, in number of hours also, for me it made a lot of sense. It made a lot of sense to study in the mornings, because I was a morning person, and that was where my maximum attention span existed. So I think it's very important for each of you to understand when are you able to concentrate the most, and then give your best in that time. So I think on an average 8 or probably 10 hours also, if you are able to do it, should be good. About my hobbies, not for me. I was very much interested. I wanted them to ask me, but they did not. Indian society and social issues for mains, it's only there in the mains, basic, because society does not have a lot of weightage. It has probably 3 or 4 questions, and if you're able to see again in mains, it does not matter how much you're studying. It matters how are you able to put what you know in the way the examiner is asking. So I think doing 1 or 2 resources and trying to develop the skill of answer writing is what matters more. Uh, for me, I think, let me think, I'm trying to remember. Uh, so I was preparing myself for the worst. I was telling my parents also that, do not expect, do not have hopes. I didn't even tell my parents that the results were coming. But I knew that they were coming, and I couldn't. I'm working. I wasn't at home during the any time during most of my preparation. I was working. Even during my interview, I just took a leave from my work and went. So for me, that gave me that mental peace that, tomorrow I will go back to work if all else fails. So I was at work, and then I got back. I was very nervous after seeing. I couldn't believe it initially. I kept showing it to my brother and asking him if it was true. So that was how I reacted to it. I think it has been a pleasure to interact with all of you guys. Thank you.
This video is brought to you by AKSIAS.